I thought I would share a very fascinating story about the Amish, and I'm going to share with you some things about the Amish furniture that I have collected. It's here, it's an Amish trash can. Can you see it? And the plant that I got at the Amish greenhouse. Now, that's just a visual aid. I wanted to share that because I studied a little bit more about the Amish in retrospect, and I thought this was really a fascinating story. And what it unraveled was I came down, I didn't realize how much I learned about the Amish, other than their conduct and the food the quality of the things they make. As you can see, the Amish trash can, as I showed you earlier, in the greenhouse that I got that plant at, everything is well made and done with such precision that I had to share it as a visual aid. But really, if you find out more about how they build houses and how they do things as a community, it's done with the concept of their faith. Their faith is their priority. And I have a history of the Amish explained in a link that you can study more if you choose to. But what I found very fascinating is that a lot of furniture that you might own might be made by the Amish. And if it's well made, it lasts forever if you haven't figured that out, if you have it, you know. But the faith of the Amish goes back to the 1500s and how they came to America in 1700s during the time of William Penn. And I didn't know this. It was very interesting how they came to the United States and also South America. And I did this study to understand because I always felt that it was something that out of curiosity, what to know about the community that is so near to my community here in my region. Now, I know there's a smaller Amish community here in my region, not Lancaster, where there's a larger Amish community in Intercourse, Pennsylvania. So, with that said, I studied it and I studied the concepts of their beliefs, their precepts, and their rules and strict regulations. And a lot of them have a lot of interesting things to say in this video that you will find interesting. The history, the the religious beliefs. Um, it's a very interesting study altogether. And I was just studying about religion and theology and things like that, and it kind of stirred up a can of worms when I listened to one, and I'm not linking it because I think it's just it crosses the line. I'm not sure it's appropriate, but there's one Amish man who basically left the Amish community. He's on YouTube. I would not encourage it because he's a little abrasive and he's been shunned by his family, and I don't know. It's not where I wanted to go. I'd like to preserve what I do know about the Amish community. They have their religious beliefs, and I leave it there. I'm just going to park it there. What I do like is that when I was in Georgia with my brother in 2001, um, we went to a Mennonite, which is another part of the Amish community. They're just a different segment of the Amish community. Uh, they had a roadside diner or restaurant, and their food was fabulous. And I couldn't believe how good the food was. I mean, it was just, if I ever travel back there, that'd be the first stop I go to. Their snickerdoodles are just outstanding. You can't really get cooking like that anywhere. It's home cooking, top notch. Um, and I'm sure this is going to sound like instant replay, so I don't want to sound like I'm just talking to the choir, but um, I would say normally plants like this don't live too long in a household like mine, but it's grown like a sprout. And it's just been an interesting traveling journey into studying about how they grow their plants, how they build their structures for their families, and how they just do things. So I hope you find it interesting. It was a very interesting study. Um, am I one of those people that is hung up on religious things? No, I'm not hung up on religion. In fact, I'm kind of leaning away from the religious stuff. I'm really interested in the conduct of the people. They're polite. And as you know, if you've ever been to an Amish event or community event, they are always selling quilts. Like the quilt that we looked at was $1,000. It was nicely made, of course, but it gets expensive nonetheless. But maybe in my wildest dreams I could afford it. I couldn't afford even a portion of that quilt. Like, really couldn't. But it's all nice and sweet. But the fact is, we live in some tough times where religion and churches and things like that right now are very toxic. And I wonder how we will live out these days if we leave the church or if we leave that's where it's at. Some of us are leaving churches in droves, and there's a lot of people that are on the fence about churchianity. Some people have been hurt in the church, and I wouldn't be so quick to be so outspoken like some people are. I would just leave that kind of stuff quietly and just go about my way. And there's a lot of people that are afraid to say anything about what they're going through. And I would say that I'm cautious because I'm not sure where it's all headed. I think that people are not comfortable with where things are going nowadays. Um, like I was telling you earlier, this guy is very outspoken about leaving his community and his church community. I wouldn't be quick to be so outspoken. I would be quick to keep my mouth quiet about how I would go about leaving, and I would just leave. A, I wouldn't leave the door open for criticism. It's a very scary time for people to use YouTube or some social platform for retaliation. You know, it's a dangerous time to be using that as it. There's a lot of collateral damage, and I see that as just being cautious. So when I watch these videos and I watch what goes on, I am very cautious in watching how people approach these topics. I like to think of the historical nature of things. I like to look at what's going on, but at the same time, it says in the scriptures to be wise like a serpent and it's innocent as doves. So while we watch and wait for these events as they take place, we must be cautious at the same time. But until then, I hope as my plant grows, and even though while I only collect a few pieces of Amish furniture, I enjoy the appreciation that I've gained in studying how they make things, how they create things, and if I ever get a chance to get back up there, I would love to take a tour about more of the things they do. But I don't know that I'll be up there anytime soon. But it was worth the interesting journey and learning more about the Amish community. And I'll link that description, that biography about the Amish community in the description box below. Thanks for listening. God bless.